If you think that ser it's permanent and estar it's temporary, you'd have been lied to. First, why ser and estar are so important? You need to know them very well because you will use them the whole time. I will explain you in this way. The verb to be in English has two meanings in Spanish. So that means that if you want to say, for example, I am, in Spanish, you will have two options. Yo soy or yo estoy. And the same for every personal pronouns. Now, the issue is that a lot of traditional education with the Spanish, they always say that ser, it's just permanent and estar is just temporary. For example, when I ask to you, where are you from? I say, ¿de dónde eres? And then you answer, soy de, and you say your country, right? So that's more permanent because the country that you're born, it's always going to be like this. And then when I ask you, how are you doing? I say, ¿cómo estás? And you answer, estoy bien. So that is a little bit more temporary because it's just how are you doing right now in this moment. So, okay, in this way we are following the logic of ser, permanent, and estar, temporary. But the truth is that it's not always like this. So I will explain you exactly where you will use each of them. Let's focus first in ser. Why it's not always permanent? I will give you today 5 big topics that you will need to remember that you need to use the verb ser with them. First, characteristics. Whenever you are describing someone or something, you need to use the verb ser. Let's say that I'm describing myself. I will say, I am brunette. But maybe tomorrow I am blonde. So it's not always permanent. It's just a characteristic about me. So that's what I will say. It's not always permanent. It's just a characteristic. Also, you're going to use the verb ser in nationalities. I would say this is the only topic that is 100% permanent. Mostly the place that you're born is always going to be the place that you're born. So whenever you're talking about where someone is from or where something is from, you will have to use the verb ser. For example, yo soy de Argentina. Next topic where you will have to use the verb ser is professions. Whenever you're talking about someone's profession, you will need to use the verb ser and not the verb estar. For example, yo soy profesora de español. You see, I don't say yo estoy profesora. I say yo soy profesora. Another topic that you will have to use the verb ser is relationships. If I want to say that we are friends, I will have to say somos amigos, not estamos amigos. So whenever you are expressing that someone is your friend, or if you're saying she's my mom, they are my parents, you will need to use the verb ser. And the last topic is the time. When you're talking very specific about the days in the week, you will also need to use the verb ser. For example, hoy es domingo. Today it's Sunday. You don't say hoy está domingo. You say hoy es domingo. Okay, now let's move to the verb estar. Let's focus in 3 big topics. First, we're going to talk about location. Location, sometimes it is a little bit difficult to understand. A lot of people, they get confused because they think a lot. So if I'm talking about my location right now in this moment, I would say that I am in my house and I'm not going to be in my house forever. So it's fine. It's temporary, right? What about if I'm talking about the location of my house? I don't know if my house is gonna be here forever, if it's temporary, if it's permanent. So it doesn't matter. If you're actually talking about locations for things or for people, you will mostly have to use the verb estar. In exception of events where you will need to use the verb ser. So I will give you an example. El parque está lejos. The park is far away. You see, you have to use the verb estar and not the verb ser. So location with the verb estar. Let's move to emotions or feelings. Whenever you're talking about how someone feels, mostly you will need to use the verb estar. For example, estoy enojada. I am angry. You will mostly need to use the verb estar whenever you are expressing how someone feels. And the last big topic in the verb estar, it's gonna be verbs. Mostly, I will say that this is the present continuous when you're explaining an action. In this occasion, you will have to use the verb estar más plus el gerundio en español. For example, something like this. Estoy cocinando. I am cooking. This is going to be one of the many tenses that we have in Spanish, and it's called present continuous, and it's specifically for something that's happening right now in this moment in a very actively way. So now we know that ser, it's going to be for characteristics, nationalities, professions, relationships, and the time. And the verb estar, it's going to be mostly for location, emotions, and actions. Okay, now you finally know where to use the verb ser and the verb estar without overthinking it. If it helps you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more Spanish tips. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao!